Welcome back to Recorder on the Wall, where we're covering all Red Bull media from start to finish. However, this time we're not doing Red Bull media, it's the summer food episode. Yeah, let's go with that. Right, Braden?
Yeah, sure. I'm Braden.
And I'm Katie.
And introducing on the show for the first time, new guest, Samantha. Hello.
Hi, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good. Well, Samantha, welcome. Thank you for being
Yes,
on the
welcome.
show.
Welcome.
And as tradition, we do have to ask you, first, how'd you find the series? And two, what's your favorite book of it?
Oh, how I found the series was actually in the early 2000s, back when it was airing on PBS, the Nelvana animation.
Oh, yeah.
Good times.
And I would have been probably about 11 or 12 at the time. And it just kind of snowballed from there. The second I found out that it was based on a book, I badgered my parents for about 2 months until they bought it for me.
Haha, badgered.
And yes. But after that, it just, let's just say my parents knew exactly what to get me for birthdays and the Christmas for up until Road Crew.
There
Hey,
you go.
made their job easier, so, I'm sure they were helpful.
Plenty of those.
Oh, yes. So, although I said in the opening this was summer food,
I register my complaint. We've been waiting.
Go ahead.
Father Abbott. What's the name?
What's our season name?
Oh.
We haven't named the season yet.
Autumn of the Lazy Abbot.
There you go.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, folks, if you're listening to this, I'm putting out this episode at the same time Lost Legends goes out live, and we'll, or at least part one, and we'll go from there. So, yes, instead of a summer food, you get an autumn food episode this year, because we like you that much. And it's totally not because I've got a lot going in my personal life. Of course not.
Hey, haven't we all?
Oh, my God. So, if you've never listened to any of our food episodes in the past, well, here's a short version. We're going to talk about things we found either in the Redwall Cookbook or akin to it, and the powers people here can shame me for not using it this time.
I didn't either.
So,
Ditto.
but then we just kind of do the one thing Brian Jakes was known for, even more than the illustrious George R.R. Martin. He wrote food into the franchise, and why not?
Was there in Redwall books?
I can forgive you if you only watch the animated series because they barely focus on that element of it. Maybe the first season. But yes, there is copious amounts of food in the Redwall books.
Yeah, my dad read a couple when I was reading them just to see what was up, and he's like, "What's with all the food?" That's the first question he asked.
It's one of the best parts, man.
I mean, canonically, the reason Brian Jakes, back to the original book, why he wrote so much grand descriptions of food into this franchise is he wrote the first book for visually impaired kids. Yeah. So, and it stuck. So, I will go first, if no one has any objections. And because I'm an old softy and nostalgic, I had on, and God, I can't believe this movie's this old, I had the movie Ratatouille on.
How old is that movie? Just out of...
I'm checking, but it depends on how old you want to feel right now.
I think I remember seeing it in theaters with a friend. So I'm like, wait, when was that?
Oh, 2007.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Only 15 years.
You know.
That was the year before I graduated high school.
Nice.
Ew.
Year I graduated college. So, sort of. It was the
year I went to
winter
college.
semester. It was the winter semester. So, but yes, I won't lie and say this movie wasn't an inspiration. Matter of fact, I put it on while I was cooking this. But I've had an interest in this dish for some time. I've just never come around to making it. And for those who don't know, it is a 18th century, so a little later than our normal fare, French dish that is vegetarian, because I try to keep to the Redwall pattern, and it consists primarily of squash, zucchini, tomato, and eggplant.
Sounds yummy.
That are salted. They're diced. They're salted to draw out the moisture, which is what you're supposed to do with some of these veggies. I added onion and mushroom to this as well. And you have a base red sauce essentially, and I threw the caramelized onion and mushrooms into that, and then on top you layer the other veggies in, like, it doesn't have to be consistent, but in order. Basically, the slices of the veggies in a spiral or some other way to maximize the volume you've got to work with, and cover that with the traditional. It's basically Italian spices, and you bake it. And it started as a stew, traditionally in French cuisine, but it's progressed a little bit, and it was made popularized by the movie I mentioned. So I made it. It's in our doc that we'll put into the show notes, and with almost some pictures. But honestly, this was pretty good. This was vegetarian. That works with my personal diet, and it came out fairly good. The only complaint is I heard from my significant other is that since I baked it in a cast iron and tomatoes tend to be a little on the acidic side, it leached some of that lovely cast iron flavor into the dish itself.
Delicious.
Hey, you know what? If you ever get blood like I have, you need to have your iron. So
there you go.
No problems on that. But as mentioned, this is very French. Hello. That's the only time I'm going to do that. I was tempted to do my whole section in the Monty Python French accent, but I'm not.
What are you doing in English?
But for French cooking, I mean, we all know French cooking is this legendary thing and so good. But you know what? I'm definitely going to make this again, just not in my cast iron, clearly. But frankly, it's cheap, it's simple. It does take time because you have to dice, salt, and etc. these veggies. So prepare to spend a good 2 hours on this. Easy.
Oh boy.
When this is all said and done. But when it comes out, yeah, not only tends to be pretty good, like the flavors mesh pretty well together, but you will have leftovers unless you're serving like a dozen people. So that's always a good thing. Braden, what'd you make?
I was actually like super excited about this one. A, for the food thing. The older I get, the more food motivated I am. Just my lifestyle. But also like the one thing that's always stuck out to me due to my love of kind of anything that, or the things that seem to go into this, the shrimp and hot root soup. I am a huge spicy food person. I love seafood. I totally relate to that whole, I looked it up and now I can't remember. Which book was it where they had the who could eat the hottest version of it?
I wouldn't say that's Bellmaker, between the Otter Twins.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like there's several books where that happens with otters, but maybe.
Yeah.
I have participated in at least a couple, wing eating competitions in my life. So my ego loves this portion.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, you get used to it. So yeah, shrimp and hot root soup. So I found a couple recipes online. They were all basically the same. The probably the most famous is the one that's actually on the Redwall Cookbook Tumblr. And also this seemed to go well with where I am in life and my kitchen's abilities at the moment. So it was great. It kind of fit everything perfectly.
Good.
What I did was I totally violated the spirit of Redwall at first because they are vegetarians and you're supposed to use vegetable stock. However, I had a couple of leftover Costco chicken rotisserie chicken carcasses that I rendered down into some nice stock at first. The Instant Pot, that is the basis of my life at the moment. I love it.
You're a man after my own heart on that.
Yeah. Oh, it is the greatest Christmas present I've ever gotten. And it has changed my life. It was perfect. So you just rendered that down, got some nice, authentic, real chicken stock out of it, with some real gelatin in it, as opposed to the crap you get at the store. I got that, put it aside, and then I took the suggestions of most of what I saw and added a little bit myself. So you gotta dice up one large yellow or white onion, or even brown would work just fine. For the amount of stuff I had, I used, I think, 8 cloves of garlic. Mince that up or crush it. I had some ginger on hand. Decided that would go well. That's not especially British Isles-y, but
Hmm.
it worked pretty well. And then a leek, which I'm not very familiar with. I haven't had those in a while, but so there's a lot of allium flavors in this. I bought a large one, so it was like I think it was roughly a pound. But with all that and the onion, I decided to only use half of it because I didn't want it to get too sweet when you saute that up. So I diced up the onion and the leek, started that in order to not overcook. Like, because everyone says throw everything together. I think the separation of flavors works better if you do the onion and the leeks uh, together by themselves, and then throw in the ginger and garlic a little later. That way they don't cook down, and it keeps the flavors a little sharper. And then I put 2 large potatoes, cubed those up. Whatever size you think is good for you. I had roughly ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch sized. So saute all that with butter, olive oil. Throw in the potatoes with the stock. Let that simmer until the potatoes are pretty much, as good as you like them. And then I threw in a few handfuls. It turned into a lot because I'm a huge shrimp fan. Frozen shrimp. I think frozen's best for this kind of thing. You can use cooked if you want.
So I have a
But
question for you then.
yeah,
Did you use frozen shrimp or fresh?
I use frozen.
Okay. So
Yeah,
pre-cooked, I imagine.
Pre-cooked. No, these were uncooked, raw. Sorry.
Oh. Okay. Did you have to take off the shells or legs or anything?
These were peeled. I actually like shrimp with the shells on. I'd prefer that. Here's where I got the idea for that was I read, what is it, The Firm by John Grisham years ago when I was like 12, which is probably way too early for that. But there's a character who says, "I'm from the South and we eat shrimp like this." And I tried it and it stuck with me.
There
It
you
makes
go.
it crunchy.
I mean, you're talking to a guy here when the 2012 Ninja Turtles was running around the cartoon. They showed up in show a quote pizza yoza as pot sticker, and I found a recipe online that someone made up for it and have adapted for myself. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm totally about trying things, even if they're in various media.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, here we are doing a Redwall food episode.
There we go.
Yeah. So then we got the spicy stuff. I threw in cayenne pepper, of course, but it's hot root, and everyone talks about using horseradish, which seems like kind of the best hot root I could find. If you can find powder, great. A lot of the recipes call for milk, which I didn't want to use, but I found a nice, very basic horseradish paste at Sprouts, actually. That's got a little bit of dairy in it, so it turns it into that whiter, milky thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything I had that's spicy, cayenne pepper, crushed chili flake. I just dumped all that in. That's totally to taste. Salt, pepper to taste, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, what I learned is, continue.
I was going to ask, did you ever consider using wasabi if it wasn't expensive as all heck?
I did actually. However, most wasabi is fake and it's just horseradish.
That's dyed green. Yep.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to a sushi restaurant, unless you specifically are willing to pay out the nose for it, you didn't have wasabi. You had green colored or green dyed horseradish sauce.
Pretty much.
So I will actually try to find some real stuff next. I'm gonna make this again, just because
So you liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Good.
Also because I feel like it lends itself to a lot of variation. Because I had leftovers, and whenever I felt like, fancying it up, I started going further and further away from the spirit of Redwall. I started adding Korean chili crisp. It's a fantastic addition. Almost
I mean,
anything.
they've got that in medieval Britain. What are you talking about?
They do. Portugal, they've got Korea somewhere. I also added sesame oil to one of my one meal I tried, and that turned out really well. So this is a very good basis for a lot of, it seems like, different variations.
So I have a question. Some soups, they taste better like the second or third day because the flavors have a chance to settle. Did you find that was the case with this one?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. especially because I could just add more shrimp as I went, and that just adds to the flavor.
Of course.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the things I remember reading in the book, can't tell you which one offhand, is that some of these otters keep like hot root powder on hand.
Yes.
Like they can deliberately add more to it to taste.
I think I remember one of the skippers doing that.
Yeah, like when you have hot sauce on your belt in a little holster.
Oh my.
Like my husband does.
Exactly.
Oh, nice. That's
He's from
awesome.
Louisiana. He has a free pass.
No, that's fair. That's entirely fair. I've
He has
been to
become
New
my
Orleans.
favorite
So, yeah.
people now. So yeah, the only complaint I have about it is when I envision shrimp and hot root soup, I imagine that it's red, and it
Mhm.
didn't turn out red with these ingredients because a leek is green, everything else is kind of a pale color, so it turns out this greenish, which is fine. But next time I do this, because I'm going to do this again, in addition to whatever other food I decide to make, I'm going to find something that turns it into a much more red color because I feel like the presentation is really part of this.
Well, the obvious solution to that is sriracha, but I don't know if you want to use that.
I'm not the biggest fan of sriracha, which I understand is sacrilege.
I mean, I actually prefer Cholula as a hot sauce, to
Yeah,
be
me too.
perfectly honest with you. So
Mhm.
it's not that as sacrilegious as you think.
Yeah, I know people who've had like tattoos of it, like that little rooster on their arm.
Don't get me wrong, I like it in eggs, but still.
Oh, totally, it's good stuff. So I'm gonna figure it out as I go, and then for as long as we do this podcast, maybe years down the line, I'll have a totally original recipe.
Oh God.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. So yeah, I'm really happy I did this one though. It turned out great. And
One more squirrel before you, Braden. Was since you mentioned the Instapot has changed your life, is there anything you've tried that you never expected to, or any other interesting things to come out of it? Because I actually have one out in my kitchen as well.
Well, risotto's pretty easy in it, actually.
Oh yeah, I made that before too.
Be surprised. Mashed potatoes turn out great in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, before we came on air, I did chicken stir fry,
Oh, fantastic.
and I've done chili because that's easy.
Oh
Because
yeah.
that is literally one you can literally throw together. But the one that I had to try in the cookbook that came with mine was apple butter.
Oh.
So and that is a lot easier than you'd think, although it does take time because it's you have to dice. You're supposed to peel and dice the onions very thin, and apples. Good lord.
Onion butter.
Oh
Mm.
God, no.
Put out some pie.
I mean, growing up, I would regularly go to a there's shops here in St. Louis. But there's a theme park in Southwest Missouri called 7 Hour City that sells it, and we'd always come home with a couple of jars every other year. So making apple butter for myself was very interesting because one, I don't peel my apples because A, that's where all the good stuff is, like minerals and vitamins and whatnot, and B, it doesn't ever bothers me. But so my apple butter, it came out, but because you don't have the preservatives most people throw in there, it has a shelf life. But more importantly, if most commercial apple butter you can walk into a grocery store and grab, much less from theme parks or whatever, is very consistent, very creamy. If we use a peanut butter analog, mine was on the other hand was chunky. Again, using the peanut butter analog. So there were definite apple chunks left and skins and whatnot. And I love that part of that.
Oh, sure. Oh, I'll tell you the one surprising one. Think about it. It's the Indian dish saag paneer, if you know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not try.
That turns out real well in the Instapot. There's almost no time to cook. You just got if you have an immersion blender on hand, that's the best way to do it.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I see you,
Sweet.
kitty. Someone told him.
Yes, there's Kitty.
Troublemaker Valkyrie. She's trying to type.
Aw, she wants to join in. So, okay, Katie.
Yes, I did something that's not it's not quite Redwallian. However, I think it's in the spirit of Redwall ish. I did
How many years did I use the Game of Thrones cookbook? So
yeah. I did, well, it's not really medieval, but I think the Redwallers would enjoy a glazed pumpkin cookie because it's like a sort of spiced sweet taste of Taste of Autumn. And it's pretty much just like your basic cookie ingredients: flour, sugar, butter, but it's a cup of pumpkin, and it's cinnamon and nutmeg, egg, vanilla, and the dough / batter. The cookies are very like, they're kind of a cake consistency, so they're very soft cookies. So the dough, and it's sort of a dough batter thing. It's very, very sticky. So what I would recommend, and which I was glad that I had, was like a cookie scoop, one of those Pampered Chef things that you like scoop in and then you squeeze the handles and it just plops out, because it's much easier to do that rather than like trying to scrape it off a spoon or something. But then after they cook, then the glaze is powdered sugar, vanilla, and milk, and you just kind of spread that on and let it kind of harden. So it just kind of adds a little sweetness to because the cookies aren't like overly sweet and the glaze is not like overly sweet, and together they kind of make this sweet, spicy, not spicy, but like spiced sort of autumn treat. And there's probably variations you could do. Like you could probably, if you like apple, you could probably put some like half applesauce, half pumpkin. That would probably be good, like to give it like apple spice type thing. But yeah, it's I brought them to Thanksgiving once and they disappeared very quickly. So
funny that.
I can imagine.
They seem to be popular, and yeah, I thought
it's funny you mentioned applesauce, because I don't think that applesauce gets the credit it deserves for being a versatile ingredient. Sure, it's good. It's fun. It's fine on its own, whether it's sweetened or not, or a cinnamon or not. But it is a regular substitute for like butter in so many different recipes, especially if you're trying to watch calories on something, or oil. Yeah.
I never thought of that. Super creative.
Hey, I am a master. Let's just say I've done it a lot, where I've Googled like, crap, I've started a recipe and I realize I don't have something. What can you substitute?
I like that.
I mean, literally earlier today when I was making that stir fry, I had no ginger, but I had allspice. So
there you go.
There you go. So they don't have coffee in Redwall, but those sound like they'd go really well with coffee.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, they don't have chocolate at Redwall either, but I think there's chocolate in the cookbook, like in one recipe. It says something about grated chocolate. So.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of the 2 kid recipes. So.
Maybe. I don't remember which one it is.
Yeah, for those of you just joining us, the Redwall cookbook has so many recipes, and all but 2 of them are supposed to be for adult supervision. The only 2 that are supposed to be kids only are Sugar Upon Sugar.
Oh, yeah.
So they've been approved.
There you go.
Okay. Katie, did you have anything else with your recipe, or?
No, it was pretty simple.
Okay. All right, Samantha, what did you make, and where did you find it?
All right, so my inspiration actually came directly from the book Tagarung. It's a slightly obscure mention, but Braden, you and I were kind of in the same vein this week. It is potato and leek pasties or turnovers.
Oh, are those the ones with the mint in them?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, it is. The ones that Krega accused Borab of pinching 1 or 2 of them.
Quite truthfully
and they wound
accused.
up crushed in his pocket.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, she knew him. He didn't stand a chance.
Better to say she knew hairs. So.
Yeah.
But I actually made this recipe twice over the past couple of weeks.
Oh man.
The first round. Sorry, what was that?
So they tasted terrible, of course.
Oh yeah, that's why you make it twice.
Well, the first round was because my taste testers kind of didn't let me have any.
Oh, that's terrible.
They came out of the oven. I had to take care of laundry. I turned to my bag for 5 seconds. And they are made in small batches. The main recipe that I found, you make them 6 at a time. And when you cut the pastry is only 15 centimeters across.
How incredibly rude.
But say the recipe that I have, I actually took a couple and kind of hodgepodged them together. But the main one that I used calls for several small potatoes diced up, cooked until they are soft but still holding their shape. And then while that's cooling off, you take 2 leeks, dice those up, saute those in a lot of butter. With this recipe, I learned a lot of British measurements that there was a lot of Googling involved. And once the leeks have cooked down to a semi-firmness, you add in the potatoes, Dijon mustard, and cream. Kind of mix all that together, and then set that aside while that's cooling off. You get your pastry. You can either make your own pie crust. This calls for short crust pastry. I'm not going to lie. I just went and I got a pie crust for the first one.
There you go.
The second go around, I actually used a sheet of Pillsbury dough. And that I think worked better the second time around. The Pillsbury dough did.
Like a puff pastry?
I actually used their croissant roll pastry.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Because I've met out for pastries, but I've definitely used crescent rolls in non-conventional ways. Like if I'm making an egg casserole, it becomes the top crust.
Mm-hmm. It also serves as my top crust for chicken pot pies.
Nice.
But so once the potatoes have cooled enough to where it's not going to start cooking your pastry before you're ready, just kind of scoop a little bit in the middle. I sprinkled on some cheese on top of it for that little extra boost. And then, say, for the first round, I followed the instructions for how long you're supposed to cook it, because pie pastry takes a lot of time to cook, I'm not going to lie. But the crescent rolls, I just put in for 20 minutes, like half the time of what the original recipe took. And they both turned out great. At least I'm assuming the first one turned out great.
Well, obviously, if they were all gone.
I'm sure you would have heard had
Yeah.
they not been that. So.
But yes, my husband, my cat, and my brother-in-law worked the hair's magic on that first batch. Made them disappear.
Yep, that's a good word for it. Hair's magic. So.
Well, that sounds delicious.
It does.
Yeah.
I don't normally go for potatoes, but yeah, that does sound awesome.
Oh, that's a bummer. Potatoes are great.
Yeah, I have it's a consistency. It's not so much taste, it's a consistency thing for me.
Oh, that's why I don't like watermelon. I just can't stand the texture of it.
See? Everyone has that one or two foods that are popular enough and with the rest of their family, but you cannot stand. So, potatoes would be mine. Which for a man with deliberate Irish ancestry, yeah, probably not a good thing. So, okay, that sounds awesome. Now that we've made your Taste Buds Water listeners, I hope we've entertained you, because I just checked our ratings and we don't have anything new, but we would really like some, as I'm completely pandering to the listener base here. So you can find us on recorderonthewall.com. We are listed on Apple Podcasts and Google Play Podcasts, if that's what they're still called. I forget anymore. We're on Spotify, our primary Twitter, so long as that site stays functional. Because yes, we're recording this in early November of 2022. Is at ROTWPOD, as well as that is our primary contact email. Where's how Samantha reached out to us and how she got on the show. It is ROTWPOD@gmail.com. And when I can remember to be active on the Red Wolf forums, I am, as well as Reddit's Red Wolf Eulalia.
Correct.
Okay. So that being said, next time, because we kind of blew through Halloween because we didn't have a,
There's not a Castaways 4.
There's no more Castaways books. We'll be covering part 2 of Act 1 of Lost Legends of Redwall. And then, as December approaches, I'm sure we'll find something to do. Oh, winter food or something else.
I'm happy to do more food.
Food is always
good. We're
good.
always happy to do more food.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Samantha, do you have a website or anything else you want to promote while you have the chance, or?
No, I don't. Thank you.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay. That being said, I'm your Papa Abbott Pete.
I'm Braden.
I'm Katie.
And you can call me anything but late for dinner.
All right, we'll see you next time, folks.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.